Northwest Indiana is home to one of the most populated tourist activities in Lake Michigan lakefront, but it also has a story behind the lakefront that is a lot of really biodiverse and interesting waterscapes and different wetland areas that are home to tons of native plants and animals that have a huge impact on the overall ecosystem of Northwest Indiana. This initial slide just shows a general region that I looked into when exploring the pollution that's caused by a lot of the industrial spots and sites that are directly adjacent to waterfront areas in this portion of Indiana. So first I wanted to set a few goals, the first being to enhance local ecologies, and then community access and education through interaction, and lastly, improving water quality and flood zones. And by doing that, I wanted to first split up the region that I had shown in the previous slide into 3 zones and focus more on each of those zones and what they have to offer. First, looking at a evaluation model of green systems and community connectivity, I looked at some community hotspots as well as recreation and existing park opportunities like trails and playground opportunities within certain focus areas that fall within each of these zones. And then moving on to the same focus areas and zones, I looked at a different evaluation model, this time water pollution sources and flood analysis. This was especially important when looking at how brownfields are affecting adjacent water sources and those native ecologies that live within them, and focusing on how those flood regions are coming up into contact with those brownfields and industrial zones before returning back to the original watershed and polluting that body of water. And then finally, I wanted to use a case study of one of these focus areas as the prime objective of how I'm going to implement design to better the area, not just in an ecological standpoint using landscape architecture, but also to connect the community to existing recreational opportunities as well as new opportunities for them to better their community and create a better connection with nature. This is just a simple framework plan, kind of diagramming out how things are going to lay out, and a more precise aerial map of the focus area, looking at some new trails to provide access, reinforcing the Gary Middle School and using that to educate the future, and then looking at blank underutilized landscape areas to create a more cohesive, tight-knit sense of community, and then lastly connecting to existing parks that are just off-site or even start to come on site of this focus area. Then to get into the actual toolkit devices, these are 3 of the 6. The first is riparian forest buffer. That will help garner restored benefits and less pollution that falls away from industrial areas like industrial railroads that occur on the site, as you can see just below the toolkit. And the next is native soil retaining planting. These are native plants that not only beautify and increase biodiversity, but they also help to retain the soil as it starts to get eroded over time with the wind and flooding. A lot of that sandy soil falls into the water and becomes more sediment pollution. And then green infrastructure stormwater treatment gardens. Those are just gardens that will be key factors in treating stormwater runoff and then educating people as to what these landscape interventions are doing with those green infrastructure. And then the next one is community gardens. These will be really cool for people in the community to create their own natural produce and learn about how that system works. And then community connection to existing opportunities. This is just creating new trail heads and trail connections with signage to existing or improved features to make sure that they have those opportunities there when they aren't existing currently. And educational boardwalk and overlook opportunities. This really immerses them into nature with like bird watching overlooks and stuff like that, and gets them to experience the sites that they've had under their nose the whole time in a brand new way. So this is just a simple vignette of one of those bird overlook opportunities and new trail connections. And then we get into that vignette of how the community garden might look and how it can kind of create a new, more tight-knit volunteer community within it to learn about local sustainable agriculture, as well as some other connection opportunities. And then lastly, these are just a few details looking into the overall impact model of my design, including 5 new connections for the community to access existing trails and recreational opportunities, 4 new educational facilities and overlooks, and then 1.78 miles of trail and boardwalk connections, with each with educational opportunities. And then in creating a more sustainable future through nature, I've established over 10.62 acres of educational and interactive sustainable landscape design, 17.33 acres of riparian forest buffers, and then I stabilized just about over 23.79 acres of eroded soil with those native soil retentive meadow plantings. Thank you.